Good morning. I am Dr. Teresa McKenzie, and I'm the Veteran Services Coordinator at the Southern Campus. At this time, we ask those who are able to please stand for the presentation of the colors by Paul G. Blazer High School Junior ROTC and the National Anthem sung by Aretha Murray.
Attention. Right shoulder, arms, carry, colors, forward, march, march on, march, colors, pose, present, arms.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Right shoulder, arms, present, arms, colors, pose, colors, pose, 1, 2, 3, 4, colors, pose. Right face, right shoulder, arms, right face, forward, march.
Good morning. Thank you for standing, and please be seated. Next, we invite Dr. Solomon Naromale, the Associate Dean for the Southern Campus, to say a few words.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Solomon Naramele, as Dr. McKinsey said, and I'm the Associate Dean of the Southern Campus. And I want to thank all of you for joining us here today as we celebrate and honor the extraordinary men and women of our armed forces and their family members. These are men and women who've given the highest form of service at home and abroad so that peoples and countries all over the world can go about their business of living in its varied forms in relative peace. Recently, there have been conversation about what would motivate anyone to put on the uniform and voluntarily sacrifice their way of life, leave their homes, leave their families, to experience unspeakable hardship and deprivation in order to protect the freedom and liberty of a group of people they've never met. You know, some people may give up some levels of comfort for their family members, but how many people choose to give up everything they know and lay down their lives so that you and I, complete strangers, can live in peace and freedom? There are not enough words to thank our veterans for their sacrifices. In his Veterans Day speech in 2016, President Obama reminded us about how the men and women of our military, whether they are part of the Navy, Coast Guard, Marine, Army, Air Force, or Special Forces, continue to set the example for the rest of us to follow, even after their tours of duty have ended. They continue to serve in all walks of life as educators, community leaders, volunteers in different organizations, businessmen. They are our bosses, our students, our colleagues, our teachers, and our co-workers. And they challenge us every day to uphold the same standard of excellence that they demonstrated in carrying out their military duties. We know that our veterans, despite their heroic achievements, never go about bragging or telling people about their bravery and heroism. It is up to us to find out and tell their stories so that we can remember that somebody paid the price so that our everyday mundane lives and activities can continue. So, whenever you get into your car and drive to the grocery store, thank a veteran. Whenever your family and friends gather in your home or at your backyard so that you can enjoy each other's company, thank a veteran. When you sit quietly at home and read or watch your favorite show on television, thank a veteran. When you go to your places of worship and have the freedom to worship in the forms you choose, thank a veteran. Whenever you can speak your mind freely and share ideas, thank a veteran. We owe a profound sense of gratitude to these men and women who've served and are still serving, and to those who've made the ultimate sacrifice so that we can feel safe to live our lives and do many mundane things we take for granted today. So I came across this poem by Joanna Fuchs that I think summarizes how much our veterans mean to us. It is simply titled Veterans Day, and the poem reads, "While we were at home, they traveled land and sea to make sure we stayed safe, to protect and keep us safe. Words are not enough to give them what they are due. On Veterans Day, please thank them for their service to me and you. May God bless our veterans and all members of their families for their gift of peace and freedom to us, and may we never forget their sacrifices." Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Narumale. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to our panel. If you do have questions for our panelists, please put them in the quick Q&A section. Barbara Biggs, our librarian, is going to monitor that and let us know if there are any questions. First, we have Terry St. Peter, U.S. Army retired Lieutenant Colonel. He's the director of the Brigadier General James M. Abraham and Colonel Arlene F. Greenfield Veterans and Military Student Services Center, housed in Athens. Next, we have Hunter Schaefer. He is a U.S. Army vet. He's a Southern Campus Bachelor of Social Work student. And next, we have John Costoval. He is a U.S. Army vet as well. I'm surrounded by Army today. I'm not sure how that happened. He is an Ohio University Bachelor of Science and Education major, specializing in integrated social studies student. And we also have an additional panelist, Dr. Timothy Hill. He is a U.S. Army Colonel retired. And I'm actually going to call in to him because he's having trouble getting through and use my phone as a speaker. So thank you and welcome to our panelists. Our first question today is how we,
Teresa.
okay, you're on speaker. I'm not sure if you made it in, but you're on speaker, okay?
Oh, okay.
Can you guys hear him?
Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, this is Colonel Hill. So I'm going to ask the first question. In light of life's current issues such as COVID, isolation, how are you all doing?
I'm doing very well. No one in my family has had it, and we maintain the distance and wear our masks. We're just trying to keep everything under wraps so that no one else can get COVID from us as well.
Okay, thank you.
I have a mother-in-law that lives with us who's elderly, so we spend a little bit more caution, especially with her in the house.
Okay, thank you. Who wants to go next?
Sure, I can. I mean, I'm doing okay. I'm kind of a social person, so I do miss not being able to have the daily interactions that I typically will have in Baker Center with all of the students and the staff in there. So it's been a little bit of a challenge for me in that regard. I mean, some days are tougher than others. It seems like I sit at this computer in this little room all day, every day, doing the same thing. So it's feeling a little like Groundhog Day. But fortunately, I've got some home renovation projects that I've been working on that kill some of that time. With all the students and the staff.
Okay, and John, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. A lot like what Terry was saying with the Groundhog Day. I've been kind of just hanging out, doing schoolwork, and then kind of got some side projects I do to stay busy. And then the daylight savings time, that's going to be a tough one to get used to because I like doing things outside. So I kind of have to close up shop at like 5 now. So it's been weird, but hey, we'll adapt.
Okay. And Hunter, how are you doing?
I'm good. I have kids, so I don't even notice anymore. I will say it's a struggle because there's some people that, like, I have family in particular that they don't understand why we don't bring my 2-year-old daughter and my newborn son to see them. And it's out of fear, just because I'm sure everybody here has noticed that it is starting to affect babies, and babies don't have the immune systems we have, and especially with COVID. And it's a scary time. So it is harder. And I'm a social butterfly too. I like to be out. I like to be working. I like to be interacting with students and coworkers. So it is harder. And I get it. I'm strapped to this desk day in and day out, emailing. And I would much rather talk to people like this, even on Teams, rather than just emails. So I get it. Yeah, it's hard.
Thank you. Next question. What does Veterans Day mean to you as a veteran? And anyone can go first.
I love PETA Veterans Day, particularly. I call it PETA Veterans Day, as I'm sure a lot of us do. No, I mean, I love it, not just because of the free food and my route that I have in Ashland, but I like going out and seeing the other veterans that are eating at restaurants, because generally we can spot each other and we can kind of share stories, and it's nice to be able to do that and just kind of connect. Could be over a plate of food, and it could be anything. And I particularly enjoy this day.
Okay.
No, I mean, I love it, not just because it's free food, and I'm not.
Hold on. How about you, Colonel Hill? Did you want to comment?
Yeah, and we're talking about what does Veterans Day mean to you?
Yes.
Really, before I actually joined, I really thought of it just as another day off from school. But really, since then, and that was back in '77 when I first joined, that the Veterans Day means sacrifice to me now. Not just the sacrifices that I've had to go through doing things in bad places around the world, but the sacrifices of all those families that have loved ones in the service that have to endure times when they're gone, when they're in harm's way, of the fear that they have. When I went to Iraq in 2003, I was gone for a year from my wife and 2 daughters, and when I got back, one daughter was graduating high school, the other one had learned how to drive a car, and my total time away from them was about a year and a half. So I look at all that my wife went through trying to deal with all the day-to-day issues, but her concerns for me, but I've also had concerns, when I was in the theater of operation, trying to do my job to the best of my ability and lead others so that they can come home to their families as well. It presents challenges, but I believe sacrifice is really what Veterans Day means to me.
Okay, thank you. John or Terry?
I'll hop in. So this is my second Veterans Day coming up since I've been out of the Army, and so I will say last year it kind of felt weird because I don't know, I was just always active duty for 5 years, so it was just kind of like you're not used to being around actual veterans, you're used to being around people who are in. So my niece, who's 8, I went to her Veterans Day assembly, and honestly, like that was like one of the coolest things I think I've done. Just being able to meet other vets from like different eras, and I think it was probably like maybe an hour that I was supposed to be there, and I think I ended up hanging out with those guys for like 4 hours, and it was an awesome experience to like hear them and actually see that like my niece was really taking it in and actually like seeing what Veterans Day was, other than just like, we like make cards for vets or whatever. Like she actually got to see like what Veterans Day is. So it was a really awesome thing, and that to me is Veterans Day.
Thank you.
Yep, that leaves me. So for me, I mean, Veterans Day meaning is really about service to the nation. Is really how I think about what it means to me. But Veterans Day for me is also an opportunity for me to thank all of my fellow veterans, all of you here as well, all of our fellow veterans for their service. I mean, I try to do that each and every day to thank veterans when I talk to veterans, but an opportunity for a day when the nation remembers and thanks them for their service is a really nice thing. So that's what Veterans Day is to me. It's a reminder of those that have who have contributed in service to our nation. So, okay.
Thank you all. Our next question. Where were you assigned? What were your duty assignments, and what were they like? Anyone want to start?
I got my mic off. I'm ready.
Okay, go for it.
So, as far as my duty assignments, I mean, I was a military intelligence officer. So I was stationed in Fort Huachuca, Arizona, down in southeast Arizona 3 different times, because that's the home of the Intel Corps. Right there at Tombstone, near Tombstone, Arizona, the OK Corral. So it was a pretty neat assignment. But I was also fortunate to have 2 assignments to Germany, which was pretty awesome. And chance to explore all of Europe. We did a lot of traveling. With the family. I did quite a bit of travels without the family while I was there. Got to do 3 tours in the Balkans when I was there on the first tour, and the second tour ended with one of my 2 trips to Iraq. So my family spent a lot more time in Europe than I did, but it was really neat and some really nice assignments. And my final assignment was right here at Ohio University with the Army ROTC. So that was particularly rewarding for 2 reasons. One, that's how I started my military career with ROTC in college. So came full circle and retired and ended my career at the same spot in the ROTC. And then 2, because we kind of fell in love with Athens and decided to stay here and make it our home. So Athens is now the longest I've lived anywhere in my entire life. So, so neat assignment, and it's kind of worn on me. So that's my story.
Thank you. Next. Colonel Hill.
Okay, when I first came in the military, I was joining the Marine Corps. I joined the Marine Corps and became an automotive mechanic. I was in enlisted ranks. Went to Parris Island for my duty station, which all Marines east of the Mississippi go to. And I would say that it was one of the most challenging times of my life, but also one of the best times of my life. I learned to follow when I was there. After active duty, I was stationed at Camp Lejeune and Camp Pendleton and in Kaneohe Bay in Hawaii. After active duty, I went into the Army National Guard, switched over there to go to Officer Candidate School, which was probably my second favorite assignment because it taught me how to lead. And I had 3 company commands as well as battalion command and the regimental command, which is similar to a brigade assignment, before I entered service over at the Pentagon for 7 years. But all the duty assignments that I went to, I was an engineer officer in the military police branches in the Army. I love the engineers. I was engineer for a majority of my career. I spent 36 and a half years in the service, and of all the duty assignments, I guess the Pentagon was the most challenging because I had to work with the 4-star generals as well as the chief of staff of the Army and the Secretary of the Army, Assistant Secretaries of the Army. Just trying to manage up was a challenge at times. So.
Okay, thank you. Hunter or John?
I was stationed in Vilseck, Germany. I was there for 3 years, 16 weeks. I don't know. It's kind of a culture shock, especially being 18 years old and living in Eastern Kentucky. When you go to Europe, it's a totally different world. I mean, the military in itself is a totally different world, and then you're in the military living in Europe. And like Terry said, I loved traveling. If you're going to get a duty assignment, OCONUS, which would be Germany, Italy, and I want to say AFRICOM. The AFRICOM selections opened up for a lot of people too in Africa. I would love to have those duty assignments. They were amazing, especially when you're younger and or even if you have a family. Do that because it opens your mind to so many more experiences. I loved it. I wish that I would have gotten stationed in the States just to see the difference and how those duty stations were compared to overseas. But I am very fortunate and blessed to have been able to go to Germany. I loved it.
Thank you. And John?
Okay, so I was an MP, and so I did 20 weeks in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Then I spent about 3 years in Fort Campbell, so chugging the air assault Kool-Aid every day. Then I took a little field trip for a year to South Korea, hung out at Camp Casey. That was all right. When I got to see more of South Korea, not like towards the DMZ, it was fun. Then came home and spent like close to a year in Fort Riley, Kansas, and hung out with the Big Red One. So it was a good time. Good time.
Okay, thank you guys. Next question. This one I want you guys to think about. If you could go back in time, would you serve again? And what message would you give your younger self about service or before you left for basic training or boot camp? What message would you give your younger self?
I know.
Hold on. Go ahead.
I would tell myself, I would find myself at 13 and I'd say, you're going to join again. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to work out every day starting today. Because I promise you, going to Fort Benning for infantry school sucks when you're out of shape. It sucks. You will work out, you will diet, and you will learn. You will eat, breathe, and sleep in the weight room. And I 1000% believe that. But no, going in the military with no prior knowledge to the military, it was a culture shock. So I think that if I would have given myself a little more time instead of doing it on a whim, it would have been less of a surprise maybe. But no, I'm happy I did it like with a blank slate. But I think I should have definitely tried to prepare myself because I gave myself no thought. I walked into a recruiter's office, and I've told you this story before, Teresa.
Mhm.
I walked into a recruiter's office and I said, I don't want to be here no more. And next day I went to MEPS, and the next day after that, MEPS said, you leave in 11 days. Have fun. So I gave myself no time to prepare, and I wish I would have.
But you would do it again?
Oh, absolutely. I would go right now if they called me.
Okay. Colonel Hill, do you want to go next?
Absolutely. I would do it again in a heartbeat if I could physically do it. Just the education you get in the service is worth every penny. I got all of my degrees up to a doctorate pretty much paid for through the military. And if I were to talk to my younger self, I'd kind of agree with the previous veteran that I would say get in shape, because when I went to Marine boot camp, I could only do the minimums, which was to do 3 pull-ups and run my 3 miles in at least 30 minutes, and then sit-ups I could do a minimum of about 25 or 30. When I left, I was in boot camp for 3 weeks or 3 months, and I was able to do 18 pull-ups, run my 3 miles in 21 minutes, and do anywhere from 65 to 75 sit-ups in 2 minutes. So just the physical parts of the service is unlike any other job that you'll ever get into, unless you're working in construction or of that sort. But the challenges of leadership are on everyone. So I would say learn as much as you can, be in shape. And so I agree with the last veteran.
Okay. Next.
Okay, I'll go, John. So, just to reiterate what everyone else said, yes, I absolutely would serve again without question. I mean, the Army provided me with so many opportunities that you just don't get typically in civilian world. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's from the professional side of the house. I don't think I'd give myself a whole lot of extra guidance. I'm very, very happy with the way the career went and the choices that I made. I mean, there was some opportunity cost there, but on that part of it, I think I'm very satisfied with my military service. The one thing I guess that I would tell myself is to do a better job as a young officer in balancing that work and family balance, because I often failed there, and it placed a lot of burden on my spouse. Fortunately, she is a very strong woman, and somehow we're still together 28 years later. But she bore a lot of that even when we were in garrison, just because there was just not enough time in the day to do things. So I guess that would probably be the one thing I would definitely tell myself.
Thank you. And John.
I would definitely do it all over again. I really like that from everybody, that everybody kind of feels the same way. That yeah, I would do it again in a heartbeat. I guess looking back over it, I would tell myself just slow it down and enjoy some of the moments, because there are some things that when I look back, I'm like, I was just going 100 miles an hour, like trying to make sure like the mission was met. That I mean, I have great memories from it, but just in the moment, just kind of being able to enjoy like accomplishing the mission instead of just jumping straight to the next one. But yeah, I would definitely say slow down, take a deep breath, and like take some pride in what you're doing before you just jump to the next thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. See it instead of later on realizing that what was happening. I agree. Next question. What was the most challenging aspect about your duty assignment or assignments?
I can start since my mic's kind of on like Terry did the last time.
Okay.
So I'd say most challenging is when I was in South Korea. So I was originally supposed to go to Germany, and I was really, really pumped to go to Germany. And then all the like fire and fury talks between Trump and Kim went on, and then I got immediately pulled off that and sent to Korea. I would say just the hardest part was one, I wasn't prepared for that, and I was in this mindset of like I was pretty upset that I got moved off of Germany because I had like researched everything, and so I would say I kind of went into that with a bad attitude, and then it didn't help that like all the added tensions on the peninsula was going on. So I guess like I would say more of like the mental thing was probably like the toughest part of that whole thing, like being away from your family. And then my family didn't have like, I feel like they just didn't have a lot of information going on. Like you only know what's going on in the news, which is what I think everybody can kind of agree with, is like the people back home, you don't realize that like the news they're getting might be like 3 weeks behind what's actually happening. So, but yeah, that was probably the most like challenging part, is just being away and then dealing with all the like craziness going on.
Okay, thank you. Hunter or Colonel Taylor? Anyone? Colonel Hill, I'm sorry.
I agree with John. For me, I was young, and I was 18. You join, and they tell you you're an adult. You raised your right hand. You are a man or a woman now. You are an adult. You know what you signed up for. I was 18 and I was young, and I kind of, there was moments like, and I will tell you, the Army, any branch, there are days where they beat the morale into you, and it lowers your morale. And I think I wish I would have, kind of like how John was saying, take a moment and appreciate it, and know that the bad times, they end at close of business anyways, and the next day begins. I think that was my biggest issue, and I wish I would have learned more about Germany before I went, while I had those moments, because starting, the local nationals were very kind, and and everywhere in Europe, pretty much everyone speaks English, surprisingly enough. A lot of people don't know that. It's easy to navigate, but I was nervous, and I was 18, and I was a kid, technically, really. I kind of had a bad attitude sometimes, and I wish that I would have appreciated the things while I was in there before I got hurt. And definitely learn more about your duty station, and take some time to have pride in your work and your service. And it's hard during those moments, but you should really stop and appreciate those things.
Okay. Colonel Hill or Terry?
I'll go ahead. Most challenging aspects of my duty assignment was that I didn't quite know what was expected at first. In my first duty assignment, when you go into a duty assignment as an officer, you're really going into a position so you can learn that position and try to learn up above the positions above your rank. So when you go to the schools, they teach you a lot of this, but when you come to do it for real or live, it creates challenges. I think the biggest challenges I've ever had were with personnel. Trying to work out their expectations and my expectations of what they should do, to include the NCO ranks, non-commissioned officer ranks of sergeants, and my junior officers. Trying to manage expectations, period, was a challenge. In the military, it's not a democracy. It's authoritative. You answer to someone, and you need to meet the objective. And it's during those parts of trying to meet those objectives that it creates the challenges that can be very, very difficult, especially with personnel.
Okay, thank you. Terry?
Yeah, I think I covered a little bit that in the last response as far as my work-life balance, for sure, on those challenging aspects. And that really gets down to you know, trying to do the best you can at any position, right? And satisfying the mission that needs to be executed while taking care of your soldiers. And that's a fine balance sometimes, because there's a lot of silly things that come down. And you just look and go, seriously, that's what we're going to waste our time on today. And those, just balancing those things and just finding there's never enough time in the day to get all the things done that you want to get done. So that was always a challenge.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What was your transition to civilian life like? If it was difficult, what would have helped? What would have made it an easier transition?
Well, my mic's on, and I'll tell you mine's a very easy, simple. It was, I was fortunate because I took the uniform off on a Friday, and on a Monday I put on a collared shirt and went to the Veterans Center. So for me, I was very fortunate that I still got to interact with veterans every day, because I could not imagine quitting cold turkey. My father was a retired military. I went straight from that to Army ROTC for 4 years of college and then into the Army. So I didn't know anything different. It would have been a huge challenge for me to go into a civilian position that did not have that type of interaction. So for me, I was fortunate. And I don't know what it would have been like, to be honest, had I gone to a completely civilian organization and not had that camaraderie and that ability to talk to veterans again. It would have been really bad. And it's still my primary identity, is that I'm a soldier. So that's my story.
Thank you. Who wants to?
I'll go. This is Colonel Hill. For me, transition is still civilian life. The hardest part for me was when I got back from Iraq. I had some PTSD issues, and the challenge was with my wife and daughters. I was avoiding them and things of that sort, so it made me quite aware of the challenges just to become a civilian again could be. The thing that helped in that transition were at the VA, and they've done miracles as far as I'm concerned. But getting into a job, civilian job after that, I worked for defense contractors. I had no issues at all. What I found is I do enjoy working for, defense contractors that work for the Army, because I miss the Army so much. But it gave me all the tools. The Army gave me all the tools that I needed for civilian life, as well as working on the outside. I would say that those organizations that hire veterans are probably better off, because veterans have had the opportunity to hone their skills, so to speak, in very difficult situations, which you don't always get in a civilian life.
Okay, thank you. Next.
So my transition, it was kind of a weird one. So I think everybody, whenever they're first getting out, they think it's gonna be like the coolest thing ever. Like I don't have to shave anymore. I don't have to do anything. Like I can do what I want. But yeah. So I lived out in Kansas, came home, and it was a big culture shock of like being around my family all the time. And then I feel like it was a shock to them of like, this guy's been gone for 5 years. Like we only have to see him like 1 or 2 days here and there. So then it was like, this guy actually is going to be around. So I feel like I probably annoyed them at the beginning. But I guess it's like in 2 parts. There was like before I went to OU, I felt like I was kind of struggling through the summer before I started freshman year. I didn't really know what I was doing. The freedom kind of like set in, and it was like, this really is cool, but not at the same time. I didn't really, all my friends were pretty much in still, and you can only talk about what's going on at your old unit for so long before you're just kind of like pretty much like the high school guy who graduated but still hangs around. that's kind of how I felt. Like you go into like the high school football games and you're in college kind of thing. So, but yeah, I just kind of felt lost. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, like on day-to-day basis. And then once I got to OU, that kind of carried on a little bit, and then met up with Mr. Terry St. Peter there, and got to be around other vets. And I know like pretty much anybody that's been around me long enough, and we're talking about like the military and veteran stuff and like transitions. I always talk about how like the Veteran Center pretty much saved a lot of like my I don't know. I feel like I saved a lot of like my mental aspect of like just feeling lost. It really got me back on track, and then I was around people of the same mindset, and kind of you had people who have already gone through the transition process and actually like cared that what you were going through and understood. So after that, it's been pretty smooth sailing.
Thank you. Next.
For me, what would have made it easier? The Army wants you to stay in, and so when I was getting out, it was just initial here, check off the box. You had maybe 30 minutes to an hour of a class for here's how you work a resume kind of thing. Out processing wasn't really tailored to make you feel secure, I think, because I know there was a couple guys that were, I think it was still called ACAPing then, and there was a couple guys who they said they've tried to get out every time and they were scared, so they would just get right back in and go to their career counselor and sign up for a few more years. And when I was getting out, I think that was my thing. I thought the freedom was cool. It was great. I haven't shaved in 5 years, and but then the boredom set in, and I've always said this: a bored veteran is not a good veteran. You will find things to do, and it's generally not the best thing for you. And it took me a while. I was in school, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had classes. I had credit hours for classes I didn't even need. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I changed my major 5 times. And I was fortunate to find the Veterans Center at OU Southern with Teresa. And talking with her and other veterans really kind of gave me a sense of direction, and I was able to work on myself a little more. I mean, I was already pretty deep in therapy, but I still didn't have that purpose. And just being able to like that switch of taking 2 years of not talking to hardly any veterans, because we're in Germany, they were a country away. Being able to actually talk to veterans here, even if they were in the Guard, the reserves, or they were already retired, that helped a lot. It really changed a lot for me. But I do wish that out processing was a little bit better for people who are still active, because it is terrifying for a lot of guys, men and women, just because the world you're coming back to is not the same, because you're not the same. And that's just how I feel about it.
Terry?
I think I already covered mine. Just
you
being
did?
able to. Yep.
Okay. So, next question. What do you think instructors should know about their veteran students? What would help veteran students, do you think? Since you're up there, Terry, let's go ahead and do you.
Well, I'm not a student, but I will say that just in talking with students that have come through the center and stuff, and some of the lessons learned, I mean, it's about being mindful that they have different experiences. They're on a different experiential level than the traditional student, and just keeping that in mind that they don't have the same mindset, and they do care, and they do want to succeed and do well in class. So I guess just being respectful and being mindful of that is probably the biggest thing I would say.
Okay, next.
I would agree. I think having a 22-year-old student versus, let's say, a 22-year-old veteran who got out when they were 22 after they served when they were 18, they're going to be two totally drastic, different people. Mindsets, everything. Their experiences are going to be totally different. I know mental health is still getting more prevalent these days. It's a new concept to a lot of people, especially in rural areas. I still know people who don't believe in mental health or that PTSD is only for veterans. But I think we're getting to the point where educators and professionals are starting to recognize behaviors that might be problematic, maybe, I don't know the right word, or dangerous. Could be for other people, to themselves. They could be depressed. They need help. Just ask them, how are you? That's a start.
Okay. John, did you have any?
Yeah, I would definitely, both of what you guys said, that I definitely agree with. I guess coming into it, as you are, I want to say like you're your own person, because I know a lot of times it seems like from people I've talked to, veterans kind of just get like clumped into one, and there is like, I've met people where they almost think like you're damaged goods or whatever, and like they treat you like you're about to like come off the hook, like, and start like yelling or something, or you have like anger issues, or so, just something like that. I guess giving everybody an equal shot, and having that respect and understanding that you definitely have different experiences that could also come into play, like maybe in a lesson or something that like you can contribute, that you're not 18 and barely can like survive without mom and dad.
Okay, thank you. Colonel Hill, did you have a comment on this one?
Yeah, when I was in command, I had a lot of students in the ranks. They would go to school. What I thought, looking at it where I've taught before, instructors should know about veterans is they're responsible. You can count on them, and generally they're a little older than the other students, so they have more determination and will to make things happen for them, and they're not afraid to ask questions. So that's
Okay, thank you. So our last question, unless we have some in the Q&A, is what is one of your fondest memories from your service? And anyone can start.
a good question.
You want to start, Colonel Hill?
Well, I think one of my fondest memories from service was when I graduated Officer Candidate School. It was just a great day. I won the leadership award. My parents were there to watch me. My wife was there. She was pregnant with our first child. But just having my family there, and then I also had the lieutenant that was a Marine lieutenant, and I was graduating out of the Army, Officer Candidate School, who came to my graduation. It was my officer in charge of me when I was on active duty in the Marine Corps, came to watch me, and it was just such a wonderful experience, having everybody there that really cared, and with Lieutenant Kinnerup being there made it even more special, because he's the one that told me that I should be an officer. And when I wasn't sure what I needed to do or what I wanted to do, he saw something in me that I didn't see, and he pinned on one of my gold bars just on one shoulder. My wife pinned the other gold bar when I was commissioned. So that was probably my fondest memory.
Thank you.
I would say that just, in the general overall fondness memory is just the great people that I got to work with, both supervisors and subordinates, both. I mean, the teams that I've been able to be a part of have just been incredible. I would say two specific events, though, that always come to mind is, my last deployment to Iraq, I was an infantry brigade S2. It was one of the hardest jobs I've ever done in Iraq. We had 5 of the 19 provinces from Iran all the way to Saudi Arabia. And to be the lead intel guy for that 5,000 person combat team was stressful. But I mean, I remember one week, probably the most satisfying week we've ever had. We captured 3 of our high value targets, 3 out of our top 10 HVTs in 1 week. And I mean, that's a pretty awesome feeling when you know that you have taken down folks that have either injured or killed Americans. It's a pretty good high that you're on from that week. So that was a pretty fond memory. I mean, the team was on when we were clicking on all cylinders. I mean, all of the different intel disciplines coming together to pinpoint these folks, and that was a pretty awesome to be a part of. And I guess the only other fond memory I have is at my retirement. My retirement ceremony, when my mom said, "You remember your freshman year in college when your professor of military science, your RTC, called you in to talk to you in front of my mom and said that I should think of a different career path because the Army is not made for me, or I'm not made for the Army." So that's pretty fond memory. So much that my mom reminded me of that at my retirement ceremony, that she wanted to know why I didn't invite him to my retirement ceremony. But so she's a little bit more bitter than I am, but it's a pretty fond memory. I guess I strive off that challenge. There you go.
You did well. Next.
I can hop in. So I've got 2. So I would say, as an NCO, my favorite memory, I had a soldier that when he first came to me, I just didn't know what I was going to do with this guy. Like, it seemed like he was always doing something stupid, and it was always a headache. Like, that's probably why I don't have hair, honestly, is this kid. But so towards the end, he was getting his stuff together, and I got to promote him. We actually got him on a waiver to specialist, and I got to promote him, and it was like almost like a proud dad moment of like, you finally got it together, man. And so yeah, I still talk to him here and there, and it was definitely a moment of like, I kind of felt that like my leadership actually was getting through that, like, because I just didn't give up on him. I told him, because they offered to like move him teams, move him squads. I was like, nah, we're gonna figure this out. It's gonna be rough, but we're gonna figure it out. But then the other one, when I got promoted to sergeant, my dad came down to Fort Campbell, which is like 6 hours from here, and promoted me. And something that, I mean, lasted maybe like 3 minutes, like nothing too crazy. He drove 6 hours for, and it was really meant a lot. Like that's probably whenever I first heard you ask that question, it was like looking at my dad and him putting the rank on, and then he's not even from the military community, and he like punched it on, and I was like, this guy's cool. But yeah, that was an awesome day.
Awesome. Hunter?
I think mine is like, I think mine was definitely graduating OSIT for infantry. I don't know why. I think whenever you're in basic and OSIT or your AIT, you feel like it's never going to end. Like you're there. This is you're here forever. You're stuck. This is your life now. Say goodbye to everybody. And again, I was 18. I was just I was a very sheltered kid from Appalachia. I didn't know anything, and there was a lot of times like I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. And I think standing on top of the hill with my company and everything else, it dawned on me, and it made me realize that, hey, you're the one that sets your own limitations. And from that day forth, I strived. I made a goal. I would make goals, and I would try to make them and exceed them. And then I'd make a next goal, and it really set the motion for my military career up until I got out and got hurt. I think that was what really changed my attitude on things. Like, if you can do this, and you thought that you couldn't, and you had no physical background whatsoever, you were not a physically fit kid, whatever, you can do anything.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of our panelists? Let me check the Q&A.
No, I haven't gotten anything here yet.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you guys. Hold on. I'm sharing, but I did it too fast. Hold on.
Thank you, Dr. Kenzie, for setting this whole thing up. This has been wonderful.
Well, thank you for participating. So over the next couple of slides, we want to give you guys some information to take with you about veterans and issues facing veterans. So let me get that queued up here. So first, let me make sure. I gotta send it, hold on. This technology is something else, I tell you. Okay, so first are some facts about COVID. I did some research, and this is what I was able to find out. That, and this is updated on November the 3rd. There are 77,464 cumulative cases of COVID-19 in the VA Medical Center system. There are 6,454 active cases, 66,950 convalescent cases, and 4,060 known deaths. This information, as you can see from the sources taken from the VA system, but just to let you know, COVID does affect us as veterans, and those of us who use the VA Medical Center system, we have a place to go and that we are being treated. Next is, I always want to remind people about the suicide data concerning veterans. The latest data that I could find says that we are now 20.5 veterans a day who die by suicide. That's about 6 of the 20 are recent users of Veterans Administration Services, and that's 20.5 too many. We really want to get this number down. At one point it was 22, and now it's 20.5, but I still think that's too many. And one of the things that they noted was that the burden of suicide resulting from firearm injuries is high. About 67% of all veteran deaths are by suicide, were result of firearm injuries. That the rates are higher among younger veterans between 18 and 29 and lowest among older veterans age 60 and older. And approximately 65% of all veterans who died by suicide were age 50 or older. Finally, there is a place for us to go as veterans. It's the crisis line. There's a toll-free number. There's information all over the place about it, but just I want people to know that veterans can call, they can chat online, or they can even text. These are new within the last few years, and it's been a wonderful thing to have additional access for veterans. So let me ask one more time. If we don't have any questions, we'll go ahead. But thank you, Colonel St. Peter, Colonel Hill, Mr. Schaefer, and Mr. Costello for being on our panel today. We are really thrilled that you could be here, and we thank you for sharing this part of your life. So I want to close the program with the Missing Men Table poem. Thank you, everyone, and please enjoy your day. Missing Man Table. The table, set for one, is small, symbolizing the loneliness we feel without them. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their intentions and willingness to respond to their country's call to arms. The single rose in the vase reminds us of the families and loved ones of our comrades in arms, who kept the faith, awaiting their return, and forever left behind. The yellow ribbon tied so prominently on the vase is reminiscent of the yellow ribbon worn by many who bear witness to their unyielding determination to account for every one of our missing. A slice of lemon is on the bread plate to remind us of their bitter fate. There is salt upon the bread plate too, symbolic of the river of tears shed by families and loved ones. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us this night. The chair is empty. They are not here. Our lives are incomplete because they are not here to sit with us tonight. They were there for us. We are still here for them. In honoring them, each of them, all of them, we stand silently and face their table, the table where they should be sitting with us tonight. We stand silently in their absence. Please raise your glass and toast to the missing man. We flew with you and called you comrade. We will never forget your ultimate sacrifice.
Well, thank you, Dr. McKenzie. Thank you for your service as well. I know you didn't get to share your experiences with us, but we appreciate your service as well. So thank you.
Thank you. It was just great hearing you guys talk. I was nodding my head the whole time. Every time you would say something, I had some of the same ideas and thoughts about what I would tell my younger self, especially when John says slow down. Absolutely was resonated with me because I, like him, was mission focused. And so thinking back, yeah, I wish I'd slowed down. I wish I had taken a moment to enjoy my comrades, my fellow airmen. As I said before, you guys are all Army. I don't know how I do this every time I get surrounded by Army, but thank you guys again. Hope you have a good rest of your day. And again, I appreciate you guys doing this, and thank you for all the people who attended. This will be recorded and it will be loaded onto our website so it can be watched again. And thank you for helping me to work through this. This is my first live event, so tried to work out the bugs. So thank you guys for being patient. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good seeing you guys.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
See ya.
You guys take care.